Good evening. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Doug Wilson. I'm the Paving for Progress Program Manager with the City of Cedar Rapids. And what Paving for Progress is, it's our 1 cent bulk county sales tax voter approved street rehabilitation and reconstruction fund that we use to do roads like Center Point Road. And I'd like to take a minute to introduce our staff and our design consultant who are here tonight. And we'll start with Bob over here.
I am Bob Coben with Shoemaker and Holland Professional Engineers.
I'm Emily Wheelbach. I'm with the City Communications.
And my name is Nick Correa. I'm a project coordinator with the city.
My name is Brian Troll. I'm with the City of Cedar Rapids Water Department.
Jay Boffer with Shoemaker and Holland Engineers.
I'm Jennifer Selby. I'm the project manager for the city.
I'm Ken Russell. I'm a water engineer for the city utilities.
I'm Greg Anderson. I'm with Shoemaker and Holland Engineers.
I'm Ben Eady, and I'm with Shoemaker and Holland Engineers as well.
My name is Amanda Van Voort. I'm an acquisition agent for the city. So if your property requires any easements or additional right-of-way, I will likely be the one contacting you.
Well, so our meeting format tonight is there's the same information on every single table. We'll do a short presentation. I talk a little bit about the program as a whole, and then Bob will be doing the more detailed discussion on the Center Point Road project that you guys got the letter about. Depending on what then after we do the presentation, we come sit down at the tables. We'll have a staff member at every single table to talk about the project, hear your concerns, and then if we feel like we need to, and we're hearing a lot of different comments, we do have an opportunity to come back at about 6:20 and report back to everyone as to what the major concerns were with the project from each table. So, big part of why we're here tonight is to get your feedback on the project. We're very much in the very beginning stages, and I'll kind of point that out here in a couple slides, but we're anxious to hear what you think of our concept to date. We're here to listen to your needs. We want to know if you or your neighbors have any accommodation needs, be it, you need to absolutely get into your drive. Now this one doesn't really have a lot of drives on it, but you need access throughout the project. We need to know those kinds of things so that we can accommodate that when we're putting together the plans. As you know, this construction, that road needs some work. It's going to be inconvenient, but we want to limit that inconvenience to you as much as possible. So what is Paving for Progress? Well, it's a strategic data-driven plan. We have information on the condition of every single street in the city of Cedar Rapids. And we take that information, use it to put together a plan to help improve the streets throughout Cedar Rapids. The plan is a mix of rehabilitation and reconstruction. So you may see some streets that you're wondering, why did you do that street? It wasn't that bad, this street is worse. Well, what happens is, if we just did the worst first, and I get that question a lot, at the end of the 10 years this funding is available, we'd actually have our overall street condition be lower than it was when we started. So we need these mix of rehabilitation and reconstruction. There's kind of an in-between project like the two that we've done on Oakland Road recently, more of a rehabilitation, but we also replace the curb, and this one's going to end up being a reconstruction mainly because of the utility work that we're going to do. So that's why we do that, and we want to make sure we spend this dollar as wisely as possible. We get $180 million roughly, we're expecting over the 10 years, which is great, it's wonderful, and we really appreciate that the voters went out and supported this so that we can use it to fix our streets. But we estimate to get everything in good and better condition in the 10 years, we'd actually need $50 million annually. So it's just really important that staff and our designers spend these dollars as prudently as possible so that we maximize the benefit to everyone in the city. And once again, great funding source. We're extremely fortunate in here in Cedar Rapids. A lot of cities don't have this. Prior to us having this funding source, we were actually bonding for street improvements. So going into debt to pay for street improvements, we get a pay-as-you-go now, so that's a double benefit for the city. We stop incurring debt, and yet we have more money than we had before. We had about $55 million in bonds we sold for the 10 years previous, and over this next 10 years, we get $180 million. So the city is making a significant increase in the investment in the streets. This is a map that kind of shows you over this first phase of the Pay for Progress program from 2014 to 2018, all the different projects that we're working on throughout the city. So we're in just about any neighborhood that you can imagine, all over the city working. Our city crews also do Pay for Progress work. They do a lot of residential streets. Right now we have a mix of about 60%. We're going to do 60% of the funding or 60% of the mileage on residential streets and 40% on more heavily traveled streets. And the reason we're doing that is because prior to having this funding source, our priority list was basically focused on matching grants, so we would maximize the dollars that we have, and it's usually federal grants. That kind of money is usually focused on more heavily traveled streets. So over the years, we haven't been able to invest as much in local streets, somewhat like Center Point Road. So we want to make sure we get out there in those neighborhoods and fix those local streets too, not just the most heavily traveled streets. And as I said, right now where we're at is we're at the concept phase on the road of the life of the project. Usually we start out with a plan, in this case the Pay for Progress plan. It could be our long-term comprehensive plan where we look at how we want to grow the city, how we want to treat neighborhoods, things like that. But right now we're very early, that's why we're here now, so we don't get too far down the road before we hear from you about what we're thinking about doing. Because as I said, it's very important that we get your feedback now so we can incorporate it into the plan in the long run. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob, and he can talk a little bit more about this project. Sorry. Thanks.
As mentioned earlier, my name is Bob Tobin. I'm with Shoemaker and Holland Professional Engineers. We're the designers on this project. And let me see if I've got the right button here. The project starts at J, I guess basically where the Green Gables Inn is at, and then continues to the south, goes all the way down, I'll say past the home port a little bit further to kind of that strip mall that's near the intersection of Coe Road and Center Point. The project itself will include a replacement of water main, putting in a new 24-inch water main along the corridor. We'll also be putting in storm sewer. As I'm sure most of you folks are aware, there's not much storm drainage in that area right now. And so we'll be putting in storm sewer with this to help with the drainage. It also helps with the longevity of the road, having the ability to get that water off the road quickly. The project, as Doug alluded to, is a full roadway reconstruction. We had originally looked at the possibility of rehabilitation of the road, but considering the removal of pavement related to the utilities, as well as there was some corings done of the existing pavement, and looking at the condition of that pavement, putting an overlay on it would not have been as effective, I guess, as replacing it, just because of the condition of that base material. As we mentioned, the water main replacement, the addition of storm sewer. We also anticipate that we'll be replacing some sidewalk out there, but the Paving for Progress projects do not include complete replacement of sidewalk. We'll be working where there's intersections where they're not currently meeting the ADA compliant requirements to change those to make that happen, as well as if there are drainage issues related to the existing sidewalk, we'll try to repair those as part of the project as well. One thing, this project as well is scheduled to occur possibly at the earliest in late 2018 it may start, and finishing sometime either late 2019 or 2020 is kind of the schedule right now. With that, the plan would be to go from the one-way that it is right now to making it a two-way from J down to H. That two-way conversion would stop at H's this time because of what would be necessary to deal with the railroad tracks and things like that that are there today, the cost that goes into dealing with those. One of the things we'd like to get some feedback on tonight is the roadway section we're looking at for the corridor. This matches, I guess, the current section that's out there, a 33-foot wide section from back of curb to back of curb. That's wider than is necessary for two-way traffic or the one-way traffic that's there right now. So if this was the selected roadway section, what would happen would be that it would be marked for bicycle lanes on either side, as well as having two 10.5-foot travel lanes. The concern with this section is that, you know, over the years, you've got some nice mature trees, you've got a nice corridor going down through there. To go back and actually construct this section, there's a concern that you could lose the majority of the trees that are out there today as part of the construction process. And you can see in this drawing, this is the proposed water main, and this is the proposed storm sewer. Here's another section we're looking at, a 31-foot wide section, which is basically a little narrower than what we were looking at prior. With this section, again, we have the bicycle lanes, only 5.5 feet as opposed to 6, and two travel lanes at 10 foot as opposed to 10.5. With this section, the thought is, again, talking to the city arborist and looking at the corridor, that there would be the potential to lose approximately 50% of the trees that are out there today. And then the last section we're looking at is a 28-foot wide section. This section, again, has two 11-foot travel lanes, only one bike lane at 6 foot wide. And with the 28 feet, we're hoping that the majority of the trees would be able to survive that construction. There's obviously some things like ash trees that may be taken down, and there, you know, trees that are not in good health may not survive even this, but we would anticipate the majority of the trees would stay, or would make it.
Bob, you want to talk a little bit, or I can talk about, the reason we're thinking about one bike lane is because we'll be converting Oakland Road and Center Point Road to two-way traffic, but we will only have room for one bike lane on Oakland Road at that point in time, just like it is now from the park that we did last year. So the idea is that would still kind of be a one-way pair for your bicyclists. So this would be back into the downtown, and Oakland Road would be out of the downtown for the bicyclists. And, you know, with narrowing this up, we get the best chance to really leave that mature canopy of trees in place. Thanks, Bob.
And this, I guess, this is I'll say south of G, where it's wider than that 33-foot today. And there, we potentially be looking at a 36-foot section, again, which would allow for two travel lanes, 11-foot, 6-foot bike lane, and then 8-foot of parking. Construction phasing. As we indicated before, Oakland Road will be converted to two-way from H, or down to H. It'll actually start at 32nd, so it'll be done along with another project, some work being done 32nd to 29th. And as far as construction phasing, we're looking into a combination of possibly closing sections of the road, as well as possibly doing the road halfway at a time. One of the benefits of being able to close the road is you can get a contractor in and out faster, so you're not dealing with that construction for as long a period of time. But obviously there's some loss of access as part of that. The positives we see in this corridor, at least where the residential homes are, is that most of those accesses are off the alleys in the back. And then, of course, the businesses on the south end, we would want to make sure that they're able to stay active during the construction as well. So in that situation, maybe we're more leaning towards half at a time or something of that nature. And then as part of the process as well, for the businesses, we would anticipate placing signs directing people to them so they would know how to access and such. The project timeline. Right now, we're hoping to have plans complete towards the end of this year, August this year. After that, the city would start contacting individuals where we might need construction easements for doing things like those sidewalk ADA compliant corners, things like that, and go through that negotiation process for the majority of 2018. We'd like to receive bids then about the middle to end or middle of 2018 and hope possibly for an early construction start date, fall of 2018. See some construction activities possibly in the fall, and then probably stop construction for the winter, start up again in early spring of 2019, and majority construction through 2019, and maybe some final completion work in 2020. Again, that's our schedule at this time. Other projects in the area, the Oakland Road, 29th to 32nd, will actually occur before this project, starting the end of this year, and then I don't know if it's probably completed in 2018. Kind of to wrap things up, I think, well, or maybe I'll let Doug take over.
Sure.
All right.
Thanks, Bob. So, as I said, we'll come out, talk to you guys at each individual table. We'll see how things go, and if we feel like it's a good idea to report back to everybody, we will do that. And certainly, thank you again for coming out tonight.
I love it.
Sure.